My name is Randy Rubenstein, and welcome to the Mastermind Parenting Podcast. At Mastermind Parenting, we're on a mission to support strong-willed kids and the families that love them. You're listening to the Mastermind Parenting Podcast with Randy Rubenstein, episode 200. Well, episode 200. It's a lot of episodes. Actually, I thought we were past 200. I'm like, do we get the numbering wrong? It seems like I've been making these episodes for forever. Episode 200. So this seems like an appropriate conversation for episode 200. Again, we are talking this month about bullying, boundaries, and back to school, which you guys might be like, okay, when are we getting to the back to school? And I think that hopefully you understand that my point with back to school is way more than making sure your kids have the right school supplies. Like, if you want to prepare your kids for back to school, the best thing in the world you could do is dig into boundaries, badgering behavior, accountability, and getting to the root of the real source of the misbehaviors and the lack of peace in your household. Like, that's the greatest thing you can do, because I'll tell you something. Having structures in place and communicating to your kids what's okay with you, what's not okay with you, when they don't follow the rules. These are the oops day rules. This will help your brain to remember. Sometimes we need to have oops day rules, which just means that you're not following the rules, you're not showing up responsibly, and so you got to get some extra rest that night. You know, there's a reason why you're not following the rules. Maybe your body is tired and you have a kid that's like, I'm not tired. You're like, okay. And it's oops day rules, right? It's oops day rules. We're about to have some oops day rules here. I've got some doggy noise polluters in the background. Who are dropping bones, making a ruckus. Yeah. And we're going to on Oops Day, we're going to take a break from screens to let your brain rest. But I don't need to. Okay. And we're going to take a break from screens to let your brain rest. It's okay. This is Oops Day rules. It'll help your brain to remember why it's important to show up responsibly and follow the rules of this family. Doesn't mean I love you any less. The deal is the deal. The plan is the plan. And you digging into, if that feels so hard, so impossible, if you're like Marie and you've got all the yeah buts, and if you haven't listened to the other episodes from this month, go back and you'll hear all the posts from poor Marie. Marie, whose 8 and 4-year-old are just running the show at her household, and she has no clue how to change things. She thinks she's been trying all these things, and what she realizes is that there's way more to the equation than what Marie thinks the issue is. She thinks it's just that she has strong-willed kids. And what these kids are here to teach Marie is, Marie, it's time to learn how to have boundaries. It's time to work on your own worthiness and your whole not enough story, and thinking that you have to put up with shitty behavior from people, other adults, the kids in your life. Like, these kids are here shaking you by the shoulders. So Marie doesn't know what she doesn't know. And her kids are here to shake her by the shoulders and say, Mom, we need you to heal all that stuff so you can show up. Knowing how to have boundaries and impact leadership, and knowing that you deserve to be treated with respect, and you've learned how to communicate as an assertive, worthy human who lets other people know what's okay with you, what's not okay with you, and stops putting up with nonsense and engaging in nonsense. Mom, we're here to help you rewire all that faulty female conditioning where you were taught to be a people pleaser and that your voice didn't matter. That's what we're here to help you with, Mom. But of course, Marie doesn't know that. She just thinks she has some really difficult kids. She just got, she just got the raw end of the deal. She happened to give birth to these very difficult kids, and she's just dying to get into the right professional so that that professional can tell her exactly what's wrong with these children and what pill to take exactly to fix them. So that's a metaphor. That's a metaphor. Don't send me a bunch of hate mail. I'm not taking a stance on medicine. I'm just saying that most of us just don't know what we don't know. And there's just a lot of shitty information out there, a lot of blaming information, quick fix information. And this is the real work. This is the good news, though. The good news is that I always say parenting is the ultimate self-help program, because our kids, they call us out on everything. You can run, but you can't hide. And you think you may be, wearing your armor and fooling the world and putting all your little slick posts out on social media, making it seem like you really think great things about yourself, and you're #killing it. And if inside you feel the opposite, your kids are here to say, yeah, we know you feel the opposite, because that's why you don't know how to have boundaries with us. That's why there's so much inconsistency. That's why you never follow through on things. That's why you constantly talk yourself out of following through on things, and you feel completely powerless. And so we're going to act out in all these really hard to live with ways to force you, Mom, to get the support that you ultimately need. Now, I think Marie's kind of an extreme case. And I know for me, I've learned so much about myself through every stage of raising my kids. And I don't know why we think that it's a sign of weakness to learn new things, to build our own self-awareness, to face the things that we've gotten wrong. Why don't we understand that the sign of a healthy person is actually a person who says, the more I know, the more I realize I don't know, the more I am striving to grow. I don't understand where in our culture we've just gotten that wrong. Right? Even the concept where people are oh, I'm saving my kids' therapy fund. I'm sure I'm screwing it all up. And, people will joke about that. And I'm okay, yeah, to me, a sign of raising a healthy human is healthy human is somebody who is going to be going to therapy, that's going to be reading and growing and evolving and not thinking they have it all figured out and they're perfect. I think that is a sign that we got it right, is if our kids come to us one day and they're open to going and digging deeper and getting to know themselves, right? So I just I really want to untaboo all of it and say we all have to stop pretending that the fantasy is happening without the work, right? The fantasy that we all have in our minds of what we want our households to look like and what we want our lives to look like. It never happens without doing this type of work. So, yeah, there's that. So Marie's posts this week are all about when consequences and professional advice doesn't work. Okay? So here's her first one that I want to read. She says, anyone have a child who no consequences seem to work for? Please let me know if you found any consequences that did end up working to change behavior. What were they? I'm clutching at straws here as I need to set some boundaries, but I can't enforce boundaries without consequences, and no consequences work. Then she says, here's her little star. I'm not asking about stuff like The Explosive Child. That's a book by Dr. Ross Greene, which is an excellent book. I don't understand how to apply that perspective in the real world, so I don't think it's right for me. Okay, I will give this to Marie, that he basically teaches a version of the productive conversation, and the way he teaches it, even me, a person who developed the productive conversation and teaches many of the same things that he teaches, I found his book to be confusing, and I really like him, so I will give her that. So she's reading books, she's seeking resources, but she's like, yeah, don't tell me that. None of it works. So I don't know, she doesn't even understand what boundaries are, that it really starts with her, that it's really all about her. It's all about her understanding how to communicate. This is what's okay with me. This is what's not okay with me. And this is what happens when you do the things that are not okay. Right? Like, it's a boundary violation. These rules, these boundaries, they help our family to run smoothly. We got a no violence policy. We got to take care of the morning tasks before we do the fun, before we play. At night, we got to take the bath and the lights out happen at this time, and we pick the clothes out for the next day, and the next day we put the clothes on. And if we don't put the clothes on, the car leaves at this time, and if we're not ready, then we get taken to the car and we can get dressed in the car. We can get dressed in the car when we get to school. Right? Like, she doesn't understand. That's the boundaries. And the consequences, like, even if I take away in many of her posts, she's like, we don't have tablets and we don't have this, and they barely play video games. Like, she doesn't even understand that, like, she's thinking, okay, the tablets don't matter to them. See, somebody give me a consequence that'll actually matter to them. Dessert doesn't matter to them. This doesn't matter to them. Like, if I just hold the right thing back. And that's just not what consequences are about. Consequences are about cause and effect. Consequences are about teaching people, like, when you forget your lunch, for instance. I'm not saying that I am a proponent of this or I was ever really able to do that, but if you forget your lunch, if you have a kid that's constantly forgetting their lunch, then you're going to be really hungry at school. And you'll have a big snack when you get home, right? So it's important to remember your lunch. I had a mom who, she had a situation the other day where her son going to day camp, and he said in the morning, I don't want to take that lunch. I don't want that lunch. And he wanted to get the lunch you can buy. And she said, they have a deal where the kids are allowed to get the bought lunches for the first week of camp and the last week of camp. And the 2 middle weeks, they bring lunches from home. So this is her strong-willed one, and he says, I don't want to bring this lunch from home. I want the bought lunch. And she says, well, that's not an option. And anyway, he leaves his lunch kit in the car. And then she gets a call from camp later on, and they said, oh, he forgot his lunch, so we're just going to let him get the purchase lunch, and then you can just send the money in tomorrow. And she kind of felt like she was in a tough spot, because she's like, do I say, actually, I'd rather you let my kid go hungry? Like, it just was so awkward. She's like, so I was like, okay. She goes, but now he just got the thing that he wanted. So what do I do? Well, it turned out that they had planned to go and get ice cream that afternoon. It was like a whole special thing. They were going to this special ice cream truck place. And so the consequence, she goes, so I was thinking, like, he doesn't, like, do none of us go get ice cream? Does he just not get ice cream? Like, what do I, and I said, no, that sounds super logical. Like, one parent stays home with him and the rest of the family goes to get ice cream, and he misses out on the ice cream because, ice cream is a special treat. And he chose not to be responsible. And then bought the lunch after you had told him that that wasn't an option. He chose to purchase the lunch, and so that choice means that he's not going to take part in this special treat this time. That's a consequence. Like, he missed out, right? And you don't beat a dead horse. You don't shame him and berate him. He just experiences the disappointment of missing out on the ice cream truck, right? And yeah, but when you have a hard time, when you don't feel worthy as a human to have boundaries, you don't even know what they are, of course, boundaries and consequences elude you. Okay, so another post from Marie. Why is every aspect of parenting still a struggle or a battle even after 8 years? When does it become enjoyable and the best thing I've ever done? Quotes, like I constantly hear from other people. Obviously, I adore my children. Meanwhile, all of her posts are like basically every single post is like, I'm up to my eyeballs. My kids are terrible and my life sucks. Really, but she's like, obviously, I adore my children. I'm just sick of talking to myself, being ignored, disrespected, everything being a battle, no consequences working, getting kicked, hit, and being called names when I attempt to set and enforce a limit, no professionals being interested, having everything blamed on my parenting abilities, etc. These years are so short. When do I get to enjoy it? Isn't it interesting? Like, she's like, obviously, I adore my children. And then she goes into that whole list of all the things that make me not adore people that I'm with. I can love them, but adore and see it's all getting blamed on her parenting. And what I would say is like, that's the problem. Like, the blame and the shame, the blame and the shame. How about if we just look at the situation? The situation is Marie needs support. Marie needs healing. Marie needs nurturing. Marie needs love. Marie doesn't even love herself. And she feels powerless. Like, this existence is what makes me just feel like, I want to scoop Marie up. And let me tell you something. On one of the posts, when she was just, I did go, not telling her what to do, I did ask her some questions and do a little coaching and offered to help her. And she kind of bit for a minute, but Marie's too broken, like, for me to really be able to coach her through a social media post. And I did give her, I let her know I would be happy to DM with her. Where I would have left her some messages and I would have nurtured her, and she wasn't interested. Marie's guarded. She's shut down. She's been hurt a lot in her life, and she doesn't even know where to turn. Here's another one. She says, anyone feel like everything you've ever tried in terms of parenting, managing behavior, dealing with issues such as eating routines, sleep, etc. has just failed? Nothing has ever worked from day one. I don't know how to have any success or change any behavior or address any issues. Clearly, I wasn't cut out to be a parent. How did you find a way through to be a good parent and have things that actually worked? See, so Marie, she wants to do things differently. This is my hunch. Like, she didn't end up being a person who doesn't know how to have boundaries and has such little self-worth that she says she adores people who kick her, hit her, never listen to her, disrespect her. Like she doesn't even know, right? She just, and so my hunch is that Marie was definitely parented. I would be so surprised, like, with a lot of destructive, attempts to control her. My hunch is that Marie was not didn't feel like she was unconditionally loved and celebrated. Okay? So I think she's been reading things and joining groups and looking for resources and trying to find just the right consequence and just the right tool and just the right thing, and nothing is working. Okay, so she really, I think, has a desire to do it differently. But then, like Marie, many people, it's like you try different approaches, maybe more gentle approaches, conscious approaches, mastermind approaches, but nothing works. I shouldn't say mastermind approaches, because let me get my hands on you. Mastermind works. But nothing works, and you're ready to give up, and you go back to the methods, the same methods that you hated as a kid, because you don't know what else to do, frankly, and you just feel out of control. So she says, according to pretty much every professional today, my children are just strong-willed, and I just need to do a parenting course. I'm still struggling with how to parent these children. It seems impossible. I did do 2 parenting courses, like they said. Both were useless. So what other parenting courses should I try to make me less of a crap parent and make me able to actually enjoy parenting? She names a couple that she's done. She's wanting something else. She says there's no help in the country where I live unless your child has a diagnosis. Neither of mine do. So I'm seeking professional help again, and it's just a waste of money. They'll tell me to do a parenting course. Sigh. Then she says, those of you whose child sees an OT, occupational therapist, how long did it take before you saw a difference? My child's been going for quite a while now, and it doesn't appear to be making any difference. It's $170 per appointment, so I can't keep paying that if it's not helping. I can only afford to see one professional at a time due to the cost, so I'm not sure if we should just stop seeing the OT and try someone else. Everyone has a 6-month-long waiting list, though. So, yeah, Marie is feeling pretty desperate. And she's not finding the right resource. It's super frustrating. I mean, that's the problem. Like, that's what, in Mastermind, I'm like, I'm not going to just tell you what to do. I'm going to help you learn how to think differently. Because if you don't change the way you think, if you don't master your mind, if you don't really get clean and clear about what's going on here, you don't remember what to do when you're in the heat of the moment. There has to be some rewiring and reconditioning, and there's a process involved with that. And it does involve healing old wounds, and it does involve nurturing, and it does involve, like Marie, she doesn't want to feel all alone. Solidarity and knowing you're not all alone, knowing you're in a safe space where people aren't judging you. They're here to truly support you and help you, not to fondle this victim story and have solidarity in how bad it is for me, how bad it is for you. At least I'm not all alone in the suckage. Like, no. We want to bond over growing, over learning things. We want to learn how to be amazing listeners and hold space for each other and pool resources, and ultimately feel better, think better thoughts, do different things. And then all of a sudden, a lot of the approaches start to make sense, and we start to remember what to do in the heat of the moment, how to have those boundaries, how to establish rules ahead of time, and then refer back to them and follow through on the plan that we took the time to set out and we took the time to communicate to our people. And kids start to feel so much safer in the world. They know, they have more certainty. This is what we do every single night before we go to bed. This is our routine. This is what is expected of me. This is what happens when I'm having a rough day and I have an oops. And I fall off track. And even when I have an oops, these people still love me. They're still crazy about me. Like, it's unconditional. And I'm going to get a chance to try again tomorrow. And nobody's going to harp on all the wrongdoings and make me feel super ashamed. We might talk about it. We're going to revisit it. And we're going to learn how to keep improving. Because these people, I always have a place where I know I belong. And that's in my family. Like, those are the people that always have my back. Even when I screw up. Even when I have a shit day. Like, they may hold me accountable, but they still love me. And I know that. Okay? That is ultimately, I know what Marie wants. She just doesn't know how to get it. She doesn't know how to find it. And I am determined to change the conversation so that more Maries can find the resources that will actually help them to live a much bigger, better life. And next week will be our last week of covering Marie. Okay? And it will be all about her husband and her posts about why she thinks he's the real problem. So until next week, happy episode 200. Bye. Thanks for listening today, guys. I hope you picked up some tips, tools, maybe some baby steps for creating more balance and boundaries in your life. And I just wanted to let you know, if you want to continue moving the needle forward in creating this for yourself, having a happier household, I want you to go to my website and check out mastermindparenting.com. We have 3 beginning programs, and if you need some accountability and more support, then please look for the one that would be a good fit for you. And as always, we're on all the social channels under Mastermind Parenting. On Instagram, it's mastermind_parenting. And, you know, periodically I do pop up on different Instagram lives, Facebook lives, where I give you teaching and coaching, and I love engaging with you live to help you help your strong-willed kids so that they can feel better, because when they feel better, they do better. And I love, love, love getting to know you guys. So thanks for listening. If you like this podcast, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Super, super appreciative.